Hey everyone, it's VortexTCG, also known as the person that bricks when he plays Blue Flare. Today I'm going to be talking about my store championships. You might have seen the shorts that I posted the other day, but I want to talk more in depth about the event, what I was playing, the deck profile, and my explanation for a lot of the cards. And if you're looking forward to this video, please do like and subscribe to the channel. It does mean a lot. And follow me on Twitter. I usually post on there about random things that happen at my local, such as, wow, funny tweet. Wow, that's really relatable, ain't it? Anyways, I want to be talking about my rounds first, and then we'll get into the deck profile as usual. So my first round was against my good friend Joe, which was playing Hunters. His first opening hand was pretty bad, and my first opening hand was essentially what you would like to call the nuts. And when you have the nuts, you can't lose, essentially, if you're playing Blue Flare. So I ended up winning that game pretty quickly. I believe he went into a early Arrestadramon superior mode to try and answer, but unfortunately, it just goes underneath the tamer. I think it was a Greymon, it just goes underneath the tamer, so it didn't really do that much. The second game was a whitewash, let me put it that way. He ended up doing, I think, a pretty solid turn in going, I believe, Gundramon in Raising and the Tigeroo, the one that sets you to free. And as I have full memory, I go Greymon, Blazing Memory Boost, give him 5. Now, if he had any answer to anything when he has 5 memory, I'm sure this wouldn't have been so strong. I think I also got to play a Tamer from the Blazing Memory Boost, which is very important. He swings with a Gundramon and hits a Tamer. Yes, you guessed it right. That's Blue Flare for you. And yeah, after that, I pretty much go, because he has 2 bodies on the field, because he did the Arrestadramon play again, just to limit my resources, I guess. And the following turn, I had, I believe, I went into 3 memory, then I went to 5 memory due to the Duo Tamers, and then I also had the Blazing Memory Boost, which allowed me to essentially go for game by going into double Metal Greymons, and then going into Z Greymon on top of it. So, rough game for my opponent, let's put it that way. My second game was against, I believe it was Imperial Dramon, a friend of mine called Ash, and this game was definitely tricky. Game 1 and game 2 were very, let's say, hit or miss. Game 1, I think I won game 1. I completely stomped game 1. I think that was the case. Then game 2 happened, and I think there was like an error with like game 2 where my opponent put 6 security down instead of 5, but I didn't really care. Like, obviously I could get the win if I wanted to, but why would I do that? It looks really bad, it's stupid, and like, what's the point? You're essentially just saying to people, like, don't come to locals. So we played it out. He wins game 2, and then in game 3 it was very, very close. Essentially, I was able to stun his complete board and then go for game because he promoted his Paildramon, and yeah, that's what ended up happening. And my game 3 was against Shine Greymon. I still don't think Shine Grey is in a good spot right now, if I'm being perfectly honest. Obviously, when BT13 comes out, then we're going to have a bit of a problem, aren't we? We're going to be like, Digimon needs to nerf this card quick by all your favorite Digimon YouTubers, or Digitubers. Maybe I should start coining that phrase out now. Digitubers. But essentially, they got pretty unlucky, I believe, in security. That's where this tweet became important, because that's the game I had that security. Let me tell you, by the way, they didn't hit enough to get through all of that security, but I'm sure after 3, they probably would have rage quit this game and probably never played Digimon again. So thank goodness I won quickly. I don't know. The opponent had quite a lot of Davises in play, or Marcus Damons, not Davis. That's Imperial. Just pretty much just building the board, and when they got to the swing turn, I believe the Davis died pretty much straight away, so they didn't get the second check at 6k, and also just wasn't able to, advance the game state even further. So Game 3 was in my favour on a 2-0. And the final game, which I like to call my best matchup by my opponent, you know who you are. He says it all the time. If I had the audio from my gameplay videos playing when me and Fraser play, I'm sure people were like, what the hell is going on, essentially. So coming into this game, I was told that this is his worst matchup, and I'm like, oh, I just need to find all my pieces to stun your guy that does 4 swings. So that's really cool, and poggers. So in this game, I kind of already knew that I wasn't going to find my pieces, and in game 1, I never did. I think I had a full hand of like male Birdramons, and all I was doing was hard playing male Birdramon, be like, don't attack me please, because if you do, you lose 2 memory, and I know you don't gain lots of memory, surely. Uh-oh, he goes to 4 memory. So, yeah, I mean, what else am I meant to do? Game 2 was very similar. I got some searches going, but guess what I didn't find? Metal Greymon. So I couldn't do a single thing. So I ended up conceding and unfortunately getting 2nd place at the Store Championships. But that was just the result of the day. Let's talk about the deck list now, shall we? We'll now go over the deck in a little bit more depth now and talk about my reasonings for certain cards and maybe some stuff that I want to change. So let's start off with the egg, and it is going to be the 4 Wanyamon. For me, this is still the best blue egg or generic blue egg that you can play. Just getting a nice draw one is pretty nice. So we have this. I don't think there's really any other options, so we just end up playing this one. And yeah, just getting a draw is very important, especially in this deck. We then have a new card in EX4 Gaussmon. This doesn't have it on deletion, but it has a unique effect where if you play a blue flare card with a blue flare trait card, you draw one, and then whenever you play a Twilight trait card, you can return one of your Digicross requirements, a Digimon card with Digicross requirements from your trash to your hand. So what this essentially does is that if you play the Tamer out on your turn, you're essentially able to get stuff like the Metal Grey, the Decadramon back to your hand, or if you just play another blue flare, which you'll end up doing anyways by playing stuff like the Greymon, maybe the Mailbird, you just get a nice draw one. This is essentially the replacement for the Dracomon, because Dracomon also had this effect, but the inheritable effect of Dracomon is still pretty nice, whereas if you have it under a level 4, you're able to gain a memory when you play a guy, but I don't think it's very relevant anymore, so we just play 4 of those. It's always nice to have a little bit more draw, and it actually combos very well with this next card in the Gaussmon. So this is the BTU-10 one, and on deletion you get to play a level 4 Digimon card with blue flare from its traits suspended without paying its memory cost. This is essentially one of your best cards in the deck for early aggression. Essentially what this card does is that you swing, you draw a card with it, because you probably have the Wanyamon underneath it, and you have a Kirihara in play, and then you're able to get a draw, and then you're able to play stuff like the Greymon, the Mailbird, the Decadramon for free. And that's important because if you play stuff like the Greymon, really it's essentially a free search, and you're still getting 1 swing out of it. You're able to play Mailbird, which disrupts your opponent, or plays a Tamer, which is very important as well. And the Decadramon, sometimes you get free cards, and free cards is good. So this card is always going to be at 4, and it combos very well with the new Gaussmon. The final rookie that I'm running is the Madoki Betamon, and my god did this card do some work. In my Imperial Dramon game, this essentially won me the game because he wasn't able to continue his turn. Just stopping your opponent from gaining memory is very important. Beelsmon's still very popular. There's loads of other decks that gain memory randomly, and playing 2 of this is very nice. Then we get onto the level 4s, which is the bulk of the deck. We play 4 BT10 Greymon, essentially one of the best cards in the deck, if I'm being honest. On play, you get to reveal 4, add 2 cards with blue flare from its traits, and if you have a Kirihara in play, you may return a Metal Greymon from your trash to your hand instead. So keep that in mind, because that is very, very important in the grind game. I think the Mailbird also has that as well. So
On deletion, it has save, and then the main thing about this card is that if this Digimon has Blue Flare in its trait and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, you can unsuspend this Digimon. So you're able to go for these crazy swings where you go into a Metal Grey, swing, unsuspend, swing again, and then you're able to go into like stuff like the Z Grey or the Deca to unsuspend again, and it's a very good card. So play 4 of it. The other Greymon that I'm playing currently is the Greymon from Starter Deck 1. The reason why I play this one is because I think the security attack pairs very well with the the jamming male Birdramon. So you're essentially able to go for 2 free swings, which is still very good. However, I am considering cutting this card for the new Greymon, just due to the fact that sometimes I don't feel like I have enough draw, and that card just says draw a card when swinging. So if you unsuspend with it, you're able to draw another card essentially. So you're able to get like 2 or 3 draws in a swing. Also, this doesn't have Blue Flare traits, so it's not searchable, so you're just essentially hard drawing into it, which isn't great sometimes. But I do think the card at the moment is pretty good. We then get on to the new male Birdramon from EX4. This card is very good at slowing down your opponent and also being aggressive. On play, you get to target the Digimon with the lowest level, and it gains, when attacking, lose 2 memory. That's just a permanent thing until the end of your opponent's turn, so if they unsuspend, you can swing again. It's essentially an Ice Wall for 1 Digimon, has save, 1 deletion obviously, and then has jamming. Probably arguably one of the first or second best card that we got from EX4 with this deck. So we play 3 of it. 4 is a little bit too much, it doesn't do enough to play it at 4. We then have 3 male Birdramon from BT10. On play, you get to if you have a Kyria, if you don't have a Kyria play, or if you have a Kyria in play, you get to return a Metal Grey. If you don't have one, you get to play a Kyria from your hand without paying its cost. Again, has save, and then when attacking, this is probably one of the, it depends on your situation, but this male Birdramon is good because if you swing and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack or block until your next turn. So essentially just more stun for this deck, which is very, very important. And just playing a Tamer out for free is pretty nice. Then we get on to the final level 4, which is 2 Decadramon. Deca Greymon is not being played as much in my version of the list. I know some versions still play like 3 or 4 Deca Greymons, but in my version, I'm just playing 2. So I'm just playing 2 Decadramons. The draw is very nice, but opponents become a little bit more wise. If they know you're playing Blue Flare, they're probably going to only promote like 1 or 2 guys, if that. And don't be wrong, a draw 3 is still pretty nice, but it's just not the same. And the inheritable isn't that good. Gains you 1k DP if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play. So it's not great, but sometimes the draw helps out. Then we get on to essentially our boss monster of the deck. We have 4 Metal Greymons from BT10. Material save 2, so every time your guy would die, it will go underneath a Tamer, which is nice. On play, it gains Rush for the turn, so it doesn't matter how it's played. It doesn't have to be Digicross or anything. And then if Digicrossing, so it doesn't have to be for 2. 3 of your opponent's Digimon with Digi-Evolution cards less than or equal to this Digimon's card can't attack or block until the end of the turn. So essentially just becomes a double swinger with your inheritables and stunning your entire board, your opponent's board. So very important. I'll then show the 2 Metal Greymons from EX4. Again, gains Rush when you play it, and then if Digicrossing, so it doesn't matter if you just do 1 or 2, you can trash up to 2 Digi-Evolution cards from one of your opponent's Digimon. You can choose, so that's good. And also has the Material Save +2, has the Digicross requirements as well. And the Inheritable is not important in this version because we're not playing Grey Knightmon, but essentially it just becomes the Metal Grey 4 and 5, or 5 and 6 in the deck, which is kind of desperately needed sometimes because sometimes it's really annoying that you have to hard play your Greymon or your male Birdramon out just to get the Metal Grey to then pass the turn essentially. So this just becomes a swing essentially. This is the guy you pretty much want to have the jamming and the unsuspend guy, because you can do 2 swings with this guy. So, and then you can go into Z Grey. So, yeah, it's pretty much the same as the other one, but without the stunning effect. 2 Deca Greymons. Has Armor Purge on play or when digivolving. You can play 1 Digimon card with blue flares from your hand or from under your tamers underneath this Digimon as its bottom Digi-Evolution card. Then if it's a Decadramon underneath, one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack or block until the end of the turn. You're going to probably Digivolve on top of the Metal Grey in certain situations when you play this, because essentially what happens is that you stun a lot of their smaller guys, and then you go into this guy to stun the big problem. And that's pretty important. So we play 2 of it. I know other people are playing more, but I feel like if you're playing more of this guy, especially as we're playing more Metal Greys now, it becomes quite bricky. So I only play 2 of this. What I do like playing is the Z Greymon. 2 Z Greymon from BT11. It costs 2 to Digivolve from a Metal Greymon. When Digivolving, you get to unsuspend, and if there's a card with blue flare or crossheart in its traits, and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, you gain 2 memory. So essentially this becomes your 3rd swing, or you use this to put underneath your Deca Greymons to give it blocker. So it becomes your 3rd swing. It's pretty good for that. On deletion, it has save, and then you also get to put a blue Greymon and a blue male Birdramon from your trash underneath one of your tamers. So not only does it do your next swing, which can win you the game potentially, if it doesn't, you're able to gain a lot more resources if your opponent deletes this. So very important card to play. And I'm also trying out a Kazuhamon. When Digivolve, you can use an option card of the cost of 5 or less without paying its memory cost, and if you use an option card with a cost of 2 or more, you can play a Talmon or a level 4 or lower yellow or blue Digimon card from this Digimon's Digi-Evolution cards without paying the cost. So the combo here is that you go, you swing 2 times with the Metal Grey, you go on top of this, you then potentially play, I believe, the Blazing Memory Boost or a Saurai, depends on which one you need. Do you need more search? Do you need to be more, you need to stun more? And then when you do that, you're able to get either search from the Blazing or whatever, and then you're able to play a level 4 from underneath. Your level 4 is pretty much going to always be stuff like the Greymon from BT10 or the male Birdramon from EX4, so you're either stunning even more or you're searching even more. The benefits of this card are very good. However, I don't know if you should be playing it, because while this card seems like, oh my god, this is made for this deck, I didn't go into it once in my games because I just can't search it. So I don't know how I feel about this card. It's obviously a very good card, but I don't know, maybe you consider cutting it or up in the numbers. We then play 4 Kiriha. I know people are cutting this down to 3, but the thing that I like, well, the thing I want in this deck is consistency, and I just want to make sure that I actually hit a Kiriha from my Blazing Memory Boosts or Security. It's a set to 3 tamer, and if you were to play a Digimon with Digimon requirements or Digicross requirements, you can suspend this and place cards from under your tamers as Digi-Evolution cards for a Digicross. So yeah, I mean, I know people are lowering this card down more and more, but I'm going to be honest, if you just have this card, you're in a way better position. So we just play 4 of it. I wouldn't cut it if I'm being honest, because sometimes this deck can be very bricky, and obviously when you see a card that's like at 4, which is a kind of like a maybe at 4, you might think, oh, you're just making it brick more. But if I'm being perfectly honest, in my testing there have been times where I've gone like 2 Blazing Memory Boosts, I didn't hit a single tamer, so I'm willing to take that risk if I'm being honest. Then we get on to probably the best card from EX4 for this deck, and that is the Kiriha and Nene. So it's always treated as a Kiriha and Nene, so you can get this from your Blazing Memory Boost at the start of your main phase. So when you promote or you don't promote, if there are 2 or more Digimon in play, gain 1 memory. So it doesn't matter if it's your side, your opponent's side, just 2 in general. And it has the same effect as the Kiriha, but when you would play one, you can suspend this tamer, place 1 card from under your tamers and 1 card from your trash. So essentially there's going to be points where, you know, you have these resources in your trash that you can't get And the only way you can really get them is from stuff like the Z Greymon on deletion. So this card just becomes essentially the toolbox to access your discard, because there are going to be times like if you go into stuff like the Deca, there's going to be times where there's going to be a source in there that you desperately need. So we play 3 of this, and it does stack very nicely. So we play 3 of it. Now getting on to options, 2 Hammer Spark. Constantly in my testing, I find myself needing 1 more memory sometimes. So I end up playing 2 Hammer Spark to try and fix that. We then have an Ice Wall. We're playing a stun deck, and this card essentially is the master of stun, if I'm being perfectly honest. So I would definitely just play one. Well, you can only play 1 of that, so just play 1. We also play 1 Saurai. I know loads of versions to play like 3 or 4 of this card, but if I'm being perfectly honest, yeah, it does help against your big stack opponents, but it doesn't do enough. And when you play it from your Kazuhamon, it feels amazing, but I don't think you can probably max it at 2, but I wouldn't recommend playing more than 2. So I just play 1 in this version. And as I said throughout my testing, I didn't hit a Kazuhamon, so it didn't feel good to play a 1 of 6 to play a Saurai for free. And of course, the final card, Blazing Memory Boost. Your best searcher, your best memory gain, it just does everything. You look at the top 6 cards, add 2 cards with Blue Flare, and then you may play a Kiriha from your card. So you can play the new Duo Tamer, you can play the old one. Just to make sure that you're aware though, you have to have 2 cards with Blue Flare included, or while also having the Tamer. So if you only have one of the Tamers and let's say a Gaussmon, you have to add them both. You can't play the Kiriha because you need to add the 2 cards with Blue Flare first before you play the Kiriha. So just keep that in mind. It does cost 5, which is very expensive, but if I'm being perfectly honest, it's worth it. Just searching 2 cards, playing a Tamer, and gaining 2 memory on the following turn is very important. So we play 4 of it. It's arguably the best engine card that you can play.
Essentially, my thoughts on Blue Flare at the moment is that it's very, very strong. Maybe a little bit too strong in places, but unfortunately it still holds that baggage of being a level 4 deck that doesn't have a lot of search. Essentially, all your searches are Blazing Memory Boost and Greymons. So if you don't find your pieces in your opening hand, which is obviously a lot more likely now because there's mulligans in place, you'll end up not doing very good, in my opinion. However, I still think it's a very strong deck, and when you find the pieces, I think it's near enough impossible to lose, if I'm being perfectly honest. Especially as the deck has so much utility now with EX4 out. But let me know what you guys think about Blue Flare in the comments section down below. What do you think about the results? Do you think there's some things I should change in my build? I think there are some stuff that I'll change, like I mentioned in the explanation. Yeah, let me know in the comments down below, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.